Hello, everyone. Today's story takes us to 2013, where a shocking case unfolded in Florida. A case of mistaken intent that led to a tragic death. A 71-year-old man named Ralph Wald shot and killed another man, believing he was witnessing his wife being raped. But the reality of what was happening that night was very different from what Wald imagined. This case is complex and layered with emotion, and the outcome left many people questioning how something so tragic could be legally justified. As it turned out, Wald's wife, Johnna Lynn Flores, wasn't being assaulted at all. She was in the middle of an affair with the man Wald killed, 32-year-old Walter Conley. Despite the infidelity, Wald's actions were deemed lawful by the courts, and he was acquitted of all charges, including murder. What happened on that fateful night? And how did Wald walk free after shooting a man in cold blood? Join us as we break down the details of this case, step by step, examining the legal principles behind self-defense, the events that led to Conley's death, and the emotional toll it took on everyone involved. This story is a haunting reminder of how quickly a life can be lost when misunderstandings spiral into violence. It was late on March 10, 2013. Ralph Wald, a Vietnam veteran, had fallen asleep in his bed in his Riverview, Florida home. He lived there with his much younger wife, Johnna Lynn Flores, who was 41 years old at the time, 30 years younger than Wald. The couple had been married for 6 years, but as we'll soon learn, things weren't as perfect in their relationship as they may have seemed. Wald woke up from his nap, disturbed by strange noises coming from downstairs. He heard what sounded like scuffling or maybe moaning. Unsure of what was happening, he walked downstairs. What he saw next made his heart race. There on the living room sofa was his wife. She was having sex with a man Wald didn't know at the time. Wald, believing his wife was being raped, immediately ran to grab his gun. In his mind, this was an intruder, a man who had broken into his house and was attacking his wife. Wald grabbed his .38 caliber revolver from the gun cabinet and returned to the living room. By now, the man, 32-year-old Walter Conley, had noticed Wald and, according to Wald's later testimony, hid behind Flores. But Wald pushed her aside and aimed the gun at Conley. Wald fired the first shot, aiming for Conley's lower body. He later told police that his intention was to shoot the man in the heart or lungs, wanting to inflict pain on him. Wald then fired 2 more rounds, one striking Conley's head, with the bullet entering near his nose and ear. By the time the third shot was fired, Conley was on the ground, fatally wounded. Wald immediately called 911. His words to the operator were chilling. He said, "Some guy was fornicating with my wife. I went back and got my gun and shot him." The aftermath of the shooting was as dramatic as the crime itself. When police arrived, Wald was calm. He didn't try to hide what he had done. In fact, he openly admitted to shooting Conley, believing he was protecting his wife from being raped. But soon, the truth of what was really happening that night started to come to light. Johnna Lynn Flores told police that she wasn't being attacked at all. In fact, she had been having an affair with Walter Conley for some time. On that night, they had been engaging in consensual sex when Wald stumbled upon them. She confirmed that Conley hadn't broken into the house. He had come willingly, and they had been seeing each other behind Wald's back. With this revelation, the case took a complicated turn. Wald had shot a man under the belief that he was committing a crime, but in reality, Conley wasn't a rapist, he was a lover. However, this is where the law comes into play in an unexpected way. In Florida, the law allows for the use of deadly force under the state's Stand Your Ground law. This law permits individuals to use force, including lethal force, if they believe it's necessary to prevent imminent harm to themselves or others, especially within their own homes. Wald's defense was built around the fact that he believed his wife was in danger. He acted under the assumption that he was stopping a violent crime. Even though his belief was later proven to be false, what mattered in court was whether Wald genuinely believed he was acting in self-defense. During the trial, Wald's attorneys argued that his actions were justified. They pointed out that Wald had no prior knowledge of the affair and that everything he did was in defense of his wife, as he understood the situation at the time. Prosecutors, however, contended that Wald's actions were reckless, and that once he realized what was happening, he could have stopped. Despite the prosecution's arguments, the jury ultimately sided with Wald. On May 30th, 2013, Ralph Wald was acquitted of all charges, including second-degree murder. The court ruled that he had acted in self-defense, citing Florida's laws around the justified use of deadly force. As we piece together the events of that night, a key question remains. How did this relationship between Johnna Lynn Flores and Walter Conley come about? What led to this affair, and how did it end in such tragedy? Flores and Conley had known each other for some time. They met through mutual friends, and over the months leading up to the incident, their relationship had grown increasingly intimate. Flores was much younger than her husband and may have sought the excitement and connection that her affair with Conley provided. Conley, who was also significantly younger than Wald, had reportedly been coming to the house regularly when Wald wasn't around. On the night of the shooting, the couple had been engaging in what they believed was a secret tryst, unaware that their actions were about to be violently interrupted. The affair, however, raises deeper questions about the nature of infidelity and how often it can spiral into dangerous and unpredictable situations. While Conley was an unarmed lover, his involvement with a married woman led him into a deadly confrontation that night. In many ways, he was at the wrong place at the wrong time. This case sparked significant controversy and debate, not just in Florida, but across the nation. The fact that Ralph Wald was acquitted of murder, despite having killed a man, didn't sit well with everyone. To some, this was a case of justice being served. Wald was an elderly man who thought he was defending his wife from a horrific crime. But to others, it seemed as though the court was letting a man get away with murder simply because he was mistaken about what was happening. Many critics of the verdict argued that Wald's actions were disproportionate, even if he believed his wife was being raped. Some argued that shooting Conley 3 times, particularly aiming for his head, was an excessive use of force. After all, Conley was unarmed, and Wald had time to assess the situation before firing multiple rounds. On the other hand, defenders of Wald's acquittal pointed out that Florida's Stand Your Ground law is designed to protect homeowners in exactly these kinds of situations. When a person believes they or their loved ones are in danger, they have a legal right to use deadly force. Wald's acquittal reopened debates about Florida's controversial Stand Your Ground laws, which allow citizens to use deadly force if they feel threatened in their homes. Critics argue that the law gives people too much leeway to act on misunderstandings, as we saw in this case. Supporters, however, believe the law protects individuals who are forced to make split-second decisions in life-threatening situations. The Wald case wasn't the first, and certainly won't be the last, to spark questions about the balance between self-defense and excessive force. What do you think? Should the law have stricter limits on what's considered self-defense? Or is it right to protect homeowners who feel endangered? After Ralph Wald was acquitted, he and Johnna Lynn Flores remained married. However, the trauma and controversy surrounding the case undoubtedly left a lasting impact on their relationship. There's little public information on how their lives changed after the trial, but it's clear that the events of that night will be remembered for years to come. Walter Conley, who lost his life in this tragic turn of events, left behind grieving friends and family members. While the court may have acquitted Wald of murder, Conley's death remains a heartbreaking loss for those who knew and loved him. His family has expressed sorrow over the way his life was cut short, especially given the circumstances surrounding his death. As for Ralph Wald and Johnna Lynn Flores, their relationship was forever changed. After the trial, the couple faced intense scrutiny, not only from the media but also from their community. It's unclear whether their marriage survived the aftermath of such a public scandal, but the emotional toll of what happened that night undoubtedly shaped the rest of their lives. The case left lingering questions. How does one move forward after such a traumatic event? How do you rebuild trust in a relationship that ended in bloodshed and betrayal? These are questions we may never fully have the answers to, but they are worth considering as we reflect on the impact of this case. Beyond the personal tragedy, this case opens up a much larger conversation about the consequences of infidelity, violence, and the legal system's role in addressing situations where misunderstandings lead to deadly outcomes. At its core, this is a story about human emotions, jealousy, fear, betrayal, and the instinct to protect those we love. But it's also a reminder that in moments of heightened emotion, snap decisions can lead to devastating consequences. Ralph Wald acted on what he believed was happening, and in doing so, he took another man's life. In this case, the law ultimately ruled that his actions were justified, but the moral question remains: was this truly justice? Studies have shown that incidents of domestic violence, particularly those involving jealousy or infidelity, can escalate into lethal confrontations. According to the American Psychological Association, roughly 30% of homicides involving intimate partners stem from jealousy or perceived betrayal. While Wald's case was framed as a defense of his wife, the underlying theme of jealousy and rage cannot be ignored. This case also raises questions about how society views infidelity and the role it plays in acts of violence. Infidelity often leads to feelings of deep betrayal, and in some cases, it becomes the trigger for violence. While Conley's death was ruled as the result of a mistaken belief, the emotional undercurrents of the situation reflect a broader, more complicated dynamic that many couples face. In the end, the story of Ralph Wald, Johnna Lynn Flores, and Walter Conley is a tragic one. A case of misunderstanding, fear, and betrayal that resulted in the loss of life. While the courts ruled in favor of Wald, the emotional scars of this incident will remain with everyone involved. This case serves as a powerful reminder that emotions can cloud judgment, and when fear and anger take over, the consequences can be irreversible. It also brings up important discussions about the stand your ground law and how easily it can be applied in situations where not all the facts are clear. If this story resonated with you, or if it made you think about the complexities of human relationships and justice, please share this video and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth true crime stories and analyses. What do you think about the case? Was Ralph Wald's acquittal justified, or should there have been a different outcome? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and stay safe.